If you ignore warning and caution lights in any aircraft, this could get you killed. You could do damage to the aircraft. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And we're going to talk about this in this video. Specifically, we're going to use an Instrum in this example. In an Instrum, you lean the mixture so that you can have a decent amount of power available for the day. And then we have a red line at 39 that you cannot go across. And you need to lean this thing that your cylinder doesn't go above 1,650 on your cylinder head or your exhaust gas temperature. If you don't lean properly, or if you get too aggressive on that collective, you're going to see a caution light appear up here. And some people think it's okay just to pull to that caution light as long as you don't go over the red, and that is wrong. So we're going to get back to more of that in a minute. Any aircraft you fly, you have to be aware of warning and caution and over pulling the power, because you're going to do damage to the aircraft. All right, so before we get to that, we've had a lot of stuff coming in, and we're just going to open a couple packages here just for the absolute hell of it. We have some special packages that go with our, right now, our Pro Pilot. If you want a special package with any of the yearly memberships, we can do that as well. So here we have Commercial Pilot Flight Instructor, PTS. If you're going for either one of those ratings, you absolutely have to have those. I've been preaching them in videos, and I'm going to keep preaching about them in videos. Let's see what's in the next box. So we can't stress enough how much knowledge is power, right? The more you learn, the better off you're going to be, the less mishaps you're going to have, the less problems, less incidents, less crashes. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who wants to buy his own aircraft. He's like, well, you know, I'm going to be careful and I'm never going to wreck a helicopter. And I said, yeah, and I wasn't planning on getting ejected in 2005 either. So just because you think you're going to be safe and you want to be safe doesn't mean that you're going to be safe. Brand new fancy schmancy pilot logbook. These come with our packages. And then Aviation Instructor's Handbook. Check that out. If you're going for CFI, you absolutely 100% need to have this book and be working through the FOIs. So we're going to go back to our example of the Instrum helicopter. Earlier in my career, I flew at a place that flew an Instrum helicopter. And there was a bunch of people working there. And this particular place had a lot of problems with cylinders and bend and push rods and all kinds of issues. And what I figured out later was the majority of us weren't trained properly on the aircraft. And luckily a good mechanic pointed out to me that he said, the reason you guys are having so much trouble is people aren't properly leaning, they're letting the engine get too hot, and then that's turning into problems with the engine. So we flew this one and we called it the piece of shit Instrum because it was always broken. A few years later, I flew the other helicopter made in the same year, exact same make and model, and it was properly flown and had all the proper maintenance, and it was a wonderful aircraft. That's when I realized that Instrum is a great aircraft. It's just the first one I flew, people weren't operating correctly. They were also getting too crazy with overpulling the power. On this aircraft, when you get to 39 inches, I believe it's 39, is the red line. You cannot go over 39. Now, if you're flying Robinsons, for example, you know you're checking every time the temperature for the day and how much power you can pull so that you don't overpull the power. So different makes and models do it differently, but in this aircraft, 39 is the key. You don't want to exceed that red line. So there's a caution light up here that comes on when you get close to that red line. So the guys I was flying with, they were all like, oh, you can pull in that yellow. Yeah, don't worry about the yellow, that's no big deal. As long as you're not going across the red line, yellow's okay. Well, later this mechanic of mine still became a good friend of mine, still a good friend of mine. He said, your guys are flying that thing and are pulling the yellow all the time, and that is too hard on the engine. The yellow range is to, well, caution light comes on, I'm pulling too much, correct that. You just don't go flying around half the day keeping that thing in the yellow. And these guys were doing boat races and different things where it required a lot of power, and they were constantly flying with that yellow light on. That is a bad thing. Just like the overspeed that we recently talked about and why, you know, we have an estimate of $54,000 to repair the aircraft is because we exceeded limitations. And the problem with exceeding limitations, as in our overspeed, as in with overpulling the power all the time, is you're putting stress and fatigue on that aircraft, and the aircraft might not break today, it might not break tomorrow, it might not break next month, but maybe 4 months down the road, someone else has an engine failure because other people were flying an aircraft constantly exceeding limitations and pushing that aircraft too hard. One thing that I've seen a lot in the last 6 to 8 months, we've had a lot of people travel from around the country, and they're aggressive on that power, pulling that collective. We're gonna roll a little video for you. So one of the absolute best piece of advice I can give across the board, but particularly right now, getting people ready for check rides. We've done 4, getting ready to do number 5 for the summer. Final approach courses, that is. Recurring theme with all 5 people that have come up here, all Hogs Pro members, all taking check rides. The majority of what I've done is preach, slow, smooth, methodical. Almost everybody's been abrupt on collective changes, aggressive on takeoffs, super aggressive on max takeoffs, really aggressive in a lot of areas where they don't need to be so aggressive. One of the biggest things I've noticed is these great big collective inputs. 2 of the 4 have said half. Move those collective, change that collective movement to half and do it slower, do it smoother. I heard somebody once talk about, students operating a collective like a jack handle, right? And I get what they're saying. It's like people just get too abrupt. So every control, smooth, slow, gentle, but collective seems the one that's kind of the trend right now this summer with everybody is just too big and abrupt on those collective inputs. Okay, so to recap after that video, be more gentle with this aircraft collective. Be gentle with the aircraft. The nicer you are to the aircraft, the longer life it's going to have and the less problems you're going to have. Overpulling the power is a problem, and I can give you a first-hand experience on the Instrum that I did own. Even though I knew how to properly do it, I leaned it one time. I didn't check the EGT. I ran it too hot, and guess what? A short time later, I was spending $6,000 on the engine, and I believe it was probably because the engine got too hot because I leaned it, but I leaned it too far and wasn't keeping a good eye on the exhaust gas temperature. So I can't stress enough. I'll wrap it up because we could go on and on for another hour about this stuff, but slow, smooth, methodical, easy on those controls, easy with that collective. I had a gentleman this summer came up to fly, and he was working on his commercial, and he had a couple hundred hours in R44s, and his first max takeoff he showed me, he pulled a whole ton of power, started dragging the RPM down, and the low RPM horn went off. So I had to immediately go, I had to grab that collective, get it pushed down, and I had to go, whoa, man. Not going to mention who it was, but if he would have kept yanking that thing, he'd have stalled the blade and killed us, right? He was too aggressive, yanking that collective in. When you pull that collective on a max takeoff, you don't need to pull it to your armpit. There's no reason for it. There's no reason whatsoever. You can actually climb higher sometimes by using a little less than max power. You can actually climb higher. These aggressive things I see going on in aircraft do not need to happen. All right, we've got another cool video coming tomorrow. What's the next one? Fuel? Fuel, run out of fuel will get you killed. I'm here. I didn't die from running out of fuel, but I had a couple of close calls with fuel, one in specific. Oh, I want to pick up this. Go below. Top 10 check ride tips, Amazon #1 bestseller. There's about 30 tips in here. We called it top 10, but then we added bonuses at the end. Dan Taz Christman, that helped me co-author this, went out and interviewed DPEs in the Las Vegas area and asked them, what are people screwing up when they show up for a check ride? Good stuff, free PDF. In the US, we'll actually ship you the paperback for $9.95 shipping and handling. We lowered that from $14.95 because we'd like to get some more of those out there. My first book, Helicopter Check Ride, lots of good stories in there, lots of good training tips. Free PDF down below. We will also send you this in the US for $9.95. Helicopter Maneuver Guide. Next time you see this, it's going to have the new Hogs logo on it. Heather's going to fix that today. Free download down below based on the Helicopter Flying Handbook. Just something good that you can refresh. You can look at it on your electronic device as the free PDF. You could even print it off if you wanted to. Just a good way to refresh your maneuvers. So, and then remember, we got all kinds of goodies that we're sending out with packages. With ProPilot, we now have an option where you get all the books. PTS, Logbook, E6B, Plotter, knee board, backpack. We ship you the whole deal. So that's available with Private Pilot. And we can make you special packages for private and the others if you're interested. So Click that subscribe button, click that little bell, and come back tomorrow for fuel. And then the day after that, what's the next one?
Weight and balance.
Weight and balance. Yes, you can damage the aircraft, and you could also possibly not be able to deal with an emergency and have a fatal because of being out of weight and balance. So click that bell. See you tomorrow. Peace out.
When you feel the pressure to fly, but know the right decision is to stay on the ground, hit the hogs no-go and live to fly another day. Helicopterground.com